Go ahead and get started. I'm going to try and get through this in about 20 minutes. You know, it's happening. Partly to give your team some time, partly so I can get back to the hospital. The second half of the book wanders a bit. It's worth reading, but really probably the most important stuff in the second half of the book is about teams. And here's what's so tough. The best software is written by mutually, what's the word I'm looking for? Mutually supporting teams.
He calls them gelled teams.
And it's, huh?
Oh, in the book he calls them gelled teams.
Gelling, yes. The teams gel. And part of what DeMarco and Lister make clear is that it's hard to force a team to gel. You can create the right conditions, you can try to pick the right people, but it's not easy. As I mentioned at Pages, I've said this before, I hired just an outstanding group of engineers, except for the one I had to fire early on. And there was another one who got fired later, in sort of detail. Went nuts. Anyway, but even with that, we almost tore ourselves apart because you have a lot of strong opinions and egos, and if you don't, none of these people, with the exception of Rick Gessner and Peter Linz, none of these people, and myself and my sister, who I hired, none of them had ever worked together before, and there was a lot of Clash of the Titans type stuff going up, and thanks to first Rick Gessner, who basically said, look, this is how you resolve differences without ripping out each other's throats. And then what we've already talked about going and finding out the team members' goals, and then aligning those by coming up with team goals that allow the individuals to meet their goals. That's how we gained cohesion again. And no one left voluntarily in 5 years, despite all the stresses of the startup. No one left voluntarily. Everyone stayed there, everyone stuck it out, and they just did outstanding work. But it's hard. It's hard building a team that gels because this is why I say this knowing all the things that can go wrong with the startup. It's nice to do at least one startup in your lives, or something like a startup, because you really get down to what does it take to make a product work, what does it take to make a team work, what are the realities of being in business, what's it like when you have to make payroll every 2 weeks or once a month or whatever. There's some things you only learn through those difficult situations. Plus in startups you tend to do, unless of course this is something that the VCs are dumping $20 million into, you tend to do everything. When I was at FTL Game or Oasis Systems, where I was doing Sundog, the game, but I also worked on our word processing tools, and I did packaging of products, and I did phone tech support, and we went to trade shows and did exhibits there, and I pitched the product and so on. You pretty much learn to do everything, and you learn how valuable things are. I've had jobs where I've literally done the ad layout, quite literally arranged things on a table, took pictures, laid out the ad, and then saw that ad printed in a computer magazine. But that said, getting sort of far afield there, growing productive teams is hard, and he has, yes, that is up there, yes. With his gelled teams, it said teams are not automatically motivated or gelled by company goals. Oh boy, that's true. In fact, good teams can sometimes get a bit full of themselves. But beyond that, it's like, okay, if they're smart enough, mature enough, they'll say, we want to keep our jobs and keep the company going because we like our paychecks. So that becomes sufficient motivation. But what they want they're not concerned about necessarily the same things that motivate upper management. This is, again, you're back to sort of the geeks versus suits divide, which again is, you know, grossly stereotypical, and yet it's true. You know, low turnover, strong sense of identity. We called ourselves Team Bonsai. All our servers were named after characters from the movie Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. And I should have brought it in, but in our very first offices, which were a smaller set of offices while we were still in the process of hiring people and doing stuff, it was in a typical single-story office complex, and we had two entrances, and one entrance said, you know, Pages Software, and had the suite number, and the other entrance said Bonsai Research Institute, and had a door, and that's where all the engineers came in. That strong sense of identity is important. And in the middle, back when we were in our last throes of trying to complete Pages and get it out the door, we were all working on Next systems, and Bruce Henderson, one of our developers, basically could hack those systems to a fairly well. And so one night at, like, you know, 10 o'clock, we're all there coding and trying to get stuff done. And suddenly on all our workstations, all through the engineering department, they start playing Lord Warfan's speech from Buckaroo Banzai. History is made at night. Character is what you are in the dark. We must work while the clock she is a-ticking. One of John Lithgow's great performances. Anyway. Sense of eliteness, joint ownership of product, obvious enjoyment. Once we got over our initial clash of, you know, the Titans, we were a tight-knit team, and we were actually all pulling for each other. The problem, as DeMarco and Lister go on to say elsewhere, is it's not that companies set out to kill teams, they just act like they do. We're back to the theme that we've come across time and again. Management tends to have an industrial manufacturing view of software development. It is far more like a sports team, or, if you will, like a joint novel writing effort, though having spent time, actually, Bruce Henderson and I just finished our first novel, and that's not easy. So they're team-aside. Here are the things that companies do to kill off teams. Defensive management. They don't trust you. They micromanage you. I think I've mentioned already that at Pages, there was a group of 4 of our engineers who would take 2-hour lunches. And John Curry, the CFO, came to me and said, you know, Bruce, you know, why are they taking so much time for lunch? Why are they doing this? I said, John, they're here until after 10 o'clock each night. I don't care if they take 2-hour lunches. I said, and I guarantee that half of what they talk about as lunch is stuff related to what we're doing. This is where you get the attitude of, we want everyone here at 8 a.m. in the morning sharp. And you have to be here from 8 to 5. And if you're going to work extra hours, you do it on your own. Bureaucracy, busy work, and, you know, paperwork and busy work. At ARINC, doing the network management software for the Motorola Iridium projects, one of the things I discovered is ARINC had this very rigorous software development methodology, developed in-house, occupied like a couple of thick binders. But they decided, based on their negative design reviews and so on with Motorola, they said, okay, we need to start doing weekly builds. And I went to the project manager and pointed out as gently as I could that they were still using their methodology, which required filing, here's what we're going to do, filing paper reports. Here's what we've done. Here's the testing that needs to be done to move it into a test environment. You know, here's a process for moving in a test environment, and then this is how we can do a build. And I said, Your methodology allows the coders to work 1 day a week. Basically, they have Tuesday to program. And all the rest of their time is spent filling out paperwork for this methodology. They made some changes. Physical separation. You know, you can have a separated team. It's hard. It's something you want to avoid. I have managed developers. We had my sister, Deirdre, ended up during Pages moving to Pensacola for 2 years because her husband was XO of Pensacola Naval Air Station. When I was at ARINC, we had another project I was involved in where we had a group of developers back in Raleigh, and we were all in Newport Beach, California, and they were in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's just hard. And some companies say, well, it doesn't matter who the developers are, they can do everything, you know, they can talk to each other. It's the casual chats that make a difference. It's the lunches. It's the, you know, sitting around eating M&Ms and drinking soda and BSing in the kitchen and saying, you know, I've been dealing with this, and said, oh, I had an idea about that. Fragmentation of people's time, too many projects and tasks. This gets back to flow stuff. Quality reduction of the product, shipping a bad product, that is so demoralizing. No one likes to ship crap. You have no sense of accomplishment, you have no sense of pride, you're embarrassed. It's not something you want to go online and say, oh yeah, I contributed to that application. Everyone says, do you realize how wretched that application is? Phony deadlines based on company desires, not reality. Oh, this is so common. We have to ship this by third quarter. We want to make the Christmas rush. We can't get it done. It's not going to be done. It's not going to be good. It's going to be, again, crap. Click control. You will find managements that will break up teams that because they consider the teams too tightly bonded. Well, let's break up the ringleaders and spread them around to different teams. No, seriously. There are people in management who think this way. And again, we get to the quote, most organizations don't set out to consciously kill teams, they just act that way. Phony motivation. I already told the story. Pages, we're probably still about 6 months from shipping. Maybe no, less than that. Probably about 4 months. It was late fall. And the CEO and CFO were coming up with this carrot and stick approach. You know, if we don't ship by the end of the year, if we do ship, we'll give everyone this. If we don't ship, this is what the consequences are going to be. And I said, you're nuts. We've all been working around the clock for months. And my sister, who is one of the senior developers, heard about this, and she turned to me and said, don't they realize we're grown-ups? Extended overtime. Oh gosh. Too many organizations operate on a heroic methodology, which is we'll get this done because everyone's going to work nights and weekends. Now in startups you often do that. I did that. Did it in both startups. Worked very long hours. First time I burned myself out enough that I did not program again for 4 years. I was fortunate enough to have on the side established a writing career that then supported me until I programmed again. And it wasn't that I was not looking at it. I actually had someone immediately try to hire me to do more game development. And I got about 3 weeks into it and I said, I can't do this. I just can't do it. And I did no programming work until the Apple consulting gig, which I figured was a safe sticking my toe back into it. I said, no, I like this. Interesting enough, with Pages, Pages lasted a lot longer. I worked hard there, and it didn't burn me up. I had great satisfaction at Pages, even though we didn't really do it. Pitting team members against each other, deliberately or inadvertently. This is trying to get people together. Chemistry of turning formation. This is back to the same things. Make a cult of quality. Provide lots of satisfying closure. Build a sense of weakness. Preserve and protect. You know what? I almost never see companies do? Say, we have this project. Who wants to be on the team? And allow the team to self-select. Now, the problem you'll face with that is there may be some hurt feelings. Because you will have people who will naturally gravitate to each other. I mean, it tends to smack of sort of choosing up sides in sandlot baseball and being the last one picked. I was an awful baseball player. I was 4 years in the minor leagues in Little League. Actually, I wasn't that much better of a football player, but I actually did make the varsity team. But you don't see projects run on the basis of who would be the best team to do this. Will they work with each other? Do they want to do this with each other? And allowing mixture. Bro culture is a big discussion right now in IT circles. It's a real thing. My personal feeling is that all things being equal, I will have female software engineers over male software engineers. Because my experience, having hired lots and lots of software engineers, having screened them, is that female software engineers are more methodical and careful. Their stuff works the first time because they think it through. Unless it's like, well, not always. No, but seriously, we had 3 female software engineers on the Pages team. I've screened them for OSG and so on, and this of course is a gross generalization because I've known, the single best coder I've ever known is still Peter Linz, this kid with a GED who's just absolutely brilliant. I've never managed to hire a bad female software engineer, but I know they're out there because it's just a matter of statistics. But there is a bro culture in IT which is often self-defeating and leads to dysfunctional software environments. This gets back to the professionalism issue we talked about. Dancing with risk. These are good chapters to read. I have quoted Machiavelli so many times. This is so true. This is so true. When you were changing something, and actually literally just had this discussion this morning with the nurse in the pre-op room for my wife, because I was very interested in what software she had up on her screen. And she was talking about the 2 or 3 different software programs that are used just at Utah Valley Hospital. It says surgery uses this one program and they don't want to change. Other parts of the hospital use a different recording system. This is people hate change. People hate change. And the problem you have when you're introducing change is that the people who don't want the change will fight against it. Those who stand to benefit by it are, as Machiavelli puts it, lukewarm defenders because they're not sure it's going to work until they see it. Trust me, you stay in software engineering, you will come back to this quote time and again. You will see it operate in a number of different ways. It's supposed to be fun to work here. Some good things about introducing small amounts of disorder. Most organizations are not willing to do that. Some are and are quite successful. Again, we're back to the Google example where I don't know if they still do it, but we're requiring their employees to spend 20% of their time on independent research. On the other hand, I'm not sure if this is why Google has this tendency. How many of you have started using various utilities, online utilities or tools from Google, and it goes sort of to a beta state, and then they kill it?
The thing is, for every one you see that gets public, there's like 10 or 50 that are internal.
Yeah. I have given up depending too much on anything from Google. I'm sure they're going to kill Google Mail someday, which is probably the only Google utility I still use on any event. But there are several others that I have used over the years where it's kind of like, we're bored. We're not going to support this anymore. Like, seriously? Anyway. But that's not the point of this chapter. The point of this chapter is there are ways to introduce productivity within an environment. But this is the same problem with education. best way to hold on to your best engineers, pay their way to conferences, to seminars, to training sessions. Because what's the one thing, not just one thing, what's one of the things that as a software engineer you most fear? Obsolescence. In fact, if you will all remind me, because I'm sitting looking at all your proposals, particularly your architecture and design, thinking there are technologies here I've never touched. I need to touch these technologies.
It's okay, we haven't touched them either.
which is so often the case. It's like, this is so cool. This is we're going to talk about technology life cycles in a later lecture. And of course we've already talked about the pitfalls of adopting new technologies. I'm almost done here. But remind me at the end of the semester, I want to get suggestions from all of you as for the best technologies for me to simply get my hands on and play with over the summer. The stuff that you found most effective in your various projects. The nice thing about working in IT is you get great new tools, but you know how long it takes to learn a new one? It's like, okay. Well, there's two levels of learning. It's like, okay, I've done enough, I can figure this out. I was reviewing a book on functional languages for a friend of mine. Reviewing in the sense of looking at a pre-publication draft. And was downloading implementations and languages. Kind of, yeah, this is fun. Yeah, do this. Oh, I got this to work. Found a few problems. Said, hey, I had a problem getting this example to work in the program, and so on. What you'll find as you get out there is you are learning for the rest of your lives. But the framework you have, and this is why I think a CS degree is particularly advantageous. The framework you have will apply again and again. It's like, oh, this is like this, and this, but here are the differences. Here's the new things I have to understand. Here's the syntax. Okay. Now I can grasp this, and I can decide if I want to become really good at this, or if I simply want to play with it. It's kind of like the only COBOL coding I ever did, or actually I never did coding. While I was an undergrad, I picked up a book in COBOL, which of course was very big. Actually, there's still billions of lines of COBOL code in production out there anyway, but I picked up a COBOL text, spent 3 days reading it, convinced myself I could learn COBOL if I had to, and have never touched it since. Thank goodness. So, there we go. Test plan. First 3 chapters. I said first 2, didn't I? I think it's first 2. Do the first 2 chapters. And yeah, because they are very big chapters. Do the first 2 chapters of Facts and Fallacies, read Webster 6, watch a podcast. If you watch the 3.5-hour testing podcast, you can count that as 3.5 hours billable. Should not be that long, huh? You have a test plan that's due. There's a podcast for testing. Someone said it's 3 hours and
17 minutes.
3 hours and 17 minutes. Yeah. I'm going to review all the podcasts over the summer. If you choose to watch the 3 hour and 17 minute testing podcast, count that as 3 hours available time. Other podcasts don't do that. Anyway, that's it. Thank you. If you have any questions, come up and see me. Otherwise, I will see you next week.